But right now I have Rick Reynolds with me, and Rick is the historian for the town of Ballston up in Saratoga County. We were chatting before the show, and he was telling me that there was once an amusement park up there. I can't believe what he uncovered when he started doing some historical research. Tell us about Ballston and why we should be interested in Ballston.
Well, Ballston's history is incredible, just like most places around this area. But the amusement park is a particularly fascinating story because you don't think of amusement parks as being in rural areas around this community, but the Schenectady Railway Company ran a trolley line from Schenectady north to Ballston and then into Saratoga. And the Schenectady Railway Company in the early 1900s decided they needed to create a leisure place for their employees.
Really?
So they
You mean it was the railroad that was behind it?
Yes, it was owned by the railroad.
What a great idea.
They created this whole park at the southern end of Ballston Lake, and they would, by trolley, bring people to this park for a day, and there were overnight cabins you could stay in. That's the beginning of the whole concept of leisure time in America at that time.
Oh my goodness.
And that's just one of many stories that I have uncovered as the historian of Ballston, and why we want to celebrate Ballston's 225th birthday.
Tell me how long this amusement park lasts, to kind of give an idea that there wasn't television and movies weren't, you know, at least they weren't talking. There was a thirst in our communities for activities.
Right, and this was a way to provide some amusement for people of the local area and also people from a long ways away. In 1901, traveling from Schenectady to Ballston was an hour-long trip. It wasn't an easy little trip to take, and the trolleys didn't always make it on time when they were supposed to. There were lots of issues that happened, but it became a very popular place, and people would go out on boats. They would have their cocktails out on the boats.
Because you have Ballston Lake. Was it near Ballston Lake? I'm just trying to get an idea of where it was.
Ballston Lake is, by today's standards, about 20 minutes north of Schenectady.
Yeah. And that's where the park was?
That's where it was, right on the southern end of Ballston Lake.
Oh,
yep,
okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's where it was. What a great place, though. It's a beautiful area up there.
It is. It's beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. So now, when you're the historian, so you
am.
have to keep track of all these little things that are going on, right? And where do you find all your information? Do you go through town records? Do you go through newspapers? What do you do? I want to know.
You research any place you can possibly find anything at all. I've spent so many hours in the Albany archives looking for things, trying to prove that one man back in the 1700s owned a tavern, and I had to find one little citation that said he owned a tavern. And you just go through paper after paper after paper.
You go to the state library?
State library.
Up on the
State
7th
archives.
floor?
Exactly, yep.
And
much
fabulous.
of this is not indexed. So you have to literally go through the newspapers to find all this kind of stuff.
And you kind of poke and
Yep.
poke.
And the other place is from residents. One of the things you're going to see displayed at Ballston's 225 next month is a saw that's huge. But it was used for cutting ice on Ballston Lake, because that was a big business back in the early 1900s.
Oh, sure.
And this saw was
there was
donated.
no refrigeration if you wanted to keep your stuff cool.
It was for your icebox.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to keep your stuff cool, you had to have that stuff, and you would put it in little houses with sawdust in between the layers, and that acted as an insulator for everything.
Yeah.
But you'll see this saw, this huge saw that was donated by someone who lived on Ballston Lake and who no longer needed it because our winters are quite cold enough to cut ice on Ballston Lake.
They put them in like barns they used to actually sled it into and stack it up?
Sheds,
like,
sleds and into sheds in most cases.
Wow.
Yep.
I know you've got some photos. Let's take a look at the photos. I don't know if he's shown them, but let's look at them, and then you can tell us a little bit about them.
Ballston225, big event, July 13th. We are celebrating Ballston's past, present, and future.
I like that.
Our motto is, we are because of what we were.
Yeah.
And as a teacher of history for almost 40 years, I truly believe that history is not about the past, it's about the present. Because it's what we are based on what we were a long, long time ago.
It's living.
It's living, yes. And so at this big event that we're going to have, Alephalette Ball, yes, Alephalette Ball was the founder of our town.
That's Ballston.
Yeah, Mr. Ball's town. The story is that he gave away a large quantity of rum in return for the right to name this place after himself.
It's like the old Pepsi Center and stuff, right? I didn't know you could do that.
Yep. And one of our venues, we have 3 actual venues and a lot of other sites that you can go to on that day. One of our venues is at the Presbyterian Church in Ballston. And
is that it right
That
there?
is it right there.
Okay.
And that is where Reverend Ball established his first church as a minister when he came to Ballston in the 1770s. It's not the original building because it's been reconstructed a couple of times, but it's as close as we can come to the real thing.
Okay, tell me about Reverend Ball. What kind of a name is that? Is that English? Is it?
He was originally, he's descended from British Isles area. Yes.
Okay, because it's an unusual name
yes.
to usually it's something son or something.
Right.
Yeah,
Eliphalet Ball was his name.
Yeah.
And he came from Bedford, down in the Westchester County area originally, and decided he wanted to come to a place which was totally barren and totally different. So he came to Ballston to establish his first settlement with about 40 people, and story goes from there that we now have a town of 9,000 people in a very rural setting.
Well, and it's just a lovely area, first of all, and of course you have you're the kind of the gateway to Saratoga.
We are. We really are. And you talk about the gateway to Saratoga, go back to that amusement park again. The merry-go-round that existed there is now in Saratoga, in Congress Park.
In Congress Park.
Different horses, but it's still basically the same one.
Yeah.
It went from there to a place called Cateros Park, which you
Cateros.
probably
Well,
remember.
see, I remember Cateros.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I remember that merry-go-round. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it was like we used to picnic there, and then I just had to go on that merry-go-round.
Of course,
And you had
yeah.
to grab that gold
The gold ring.
the gold
That's
ring,
right.
and hope that maybe,
gold
I don't know,
ring.
did it give us a free, I don't think
Gave
I
you
ever
a free
got
ride.
it.
Gave you a free ride.
I probably didn't, I never got a free ride in my life.
I interviewed a 96-year-old man a couple of years ago. He has since passed away, and he had one of those gold rings.
Oh, you got to keep it?
I did not. I didn't dare ask him for it because I thought it would be very impolite, and I don't know what happened to it after
You took a
his
photo
death.
of it, I'm sure.
I do have a picture of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
good. I mean, it's always good to take a photo, just in case.
That's right.
So you have a big event coming up, and that is on July
13th.
13th.
Saturday the 13th.
It's a
Yep.
Saturday.
Yep.
It's an all-day event.
It is an all-day event. It starts at 11. It goes till about 4. We have all kinds of animals that you can pet. We have tractors because we are a very rural area.
You're a rural area.
And we have all kinds of historical exhibits, including all kinds of stuff on the amusement park. We've got an old-fashioned church supper going on. We've got a unicycle demonstration. And we've got 1850s baseball being played.
Well, now there seems to be a connection with baseball and Ballston.
Well, there really isn't.
There
really
Doubleday
isn't.
was
Doubleday-
never that.
Doubleday-
It was just that bar, right?
Yeah. Doubleday did not invent baseball, even though that was a story from many, many years ago.
See, this is where we find out when we talk to an historian.
But 1850s baseball, the great thing about it, it has 1 out per inning. You wouldn't believe how fast the innings go
I
in
bet
that
they
game.
go pretty fast.
And everybody complains about baseball being slow these days. Well, maybe we ought to adopt the old-fashioned
1 out, or
1850s
do it, gradually,
baseball.
just 2 outs for start. Then we can work it on down.
Yeah.
Rick Reynolds, he is the historian for Ballston. Do we call Ballston Spa Ballston? What
No,
is the town of
the
Ballston?
town of Ballston encompasses a little tiny piece of the village of Ballston Spa.
Okay.
And it includes the kind of hamlet areas of Ballston Lake and the area that we call Burnt Hills. There is really no such place as Burnt Hills. It's not a political entity. It's just an area.
The amazing thing is that it's such a historical and so quaint. I want to use the word quaint. I guess that works a little bit. That, I mean, they even use it for movie sets. I mean, that's how quaint it is.
Yep. It's
When
very
they do
much
a
like it
period
was.
piece, yeah.
And we want it to stay that way. We have
Yeah.
some beautiful vistas looking out over the fields towards the Green Mountains, and you can
Yeah.
actually see the Green Mountains
Yeah,
from Ballston.
yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful area. Do a staycation and enjoy some of the local areas, and set your calendar, mark it down, and go up and celebrate with them on that Saturday on July 13th.
13th, yep.
13th. And enjoy some of the wonderful events that are in our area, and bring the kids, because maybe they need to see a little bit more than their iPads. Right?
Yep.
And we've been talking with Rick about coming on again. He does some other stuff that we might have some fun with. So
Yep.
we'll keep
Be
it-
happy to do so.
We'll keep that kind of dangling a little. We always keep a carrot going. We're going to take a quick break.